Welcome to my channel. I am Hyla and this is H. Cooper Crafty Bug. This is my main YouTube channel. I do have 3 YouTube channels if you want to go check those out. My newest one is dedicated solely to homecoming moms, so it will only have homecoming mom stuff on it. It's going to have a lot of the same stuff as this channel, but it is going to be dedicated only to homecoming moms, and I did let my subscribers name and vote on a name for that channel. Alright, I am working on a wrist mum. Now when I first started editing this, I thought, oh, it's going to be from start to finish. It is not. Apparently, I did not get all of it filmed, and that happens a lot, especially during homecoming season, because there's only so much space to put film. You know, I've got a couple of cameras, and I've got different places that I store the videos and stuff, but the cameras get full. The space where you can upload them to gets full, my computer gets full, and it just gets to a point where I can't, you know, I don't have time to go and move stuff around and edit and stuff during homecoming season. So it's like when my camera gets full, I can't stop making the mum. I have to finish the mum because it's for a customer and it has to be shipped. So most of the time during homecoming season, you will see that my mums are not start to finish because it's just impossible to film them. And I don't have enough cameras to put it all on. But I do have several different ways I can record, and I will fill all those sections up. So I do have a lot of filming, not filming, I have a lot of videos to go through and edit and stuff for the 2024 season. That was from the 2023 season, if that makes sense. So those streamers, like I showed, are 8 inches long. That's what I prefer for my wrist mums. And you can see how they curl. They're long enough to where they curl kind of around a little bit. That's what I like. You make them as long as short as you want to. You don't have to add ribbon streamers. People like these wrist mums because I will put 2 names on it. Usually the mascot and the child's name is usually what goes on there. And I like to add a lot of decorative fun ribbons, so you'll see me move them around to see how I want them. I do have to make sure that I always save space for those 2 ribbons at the end that will have custom vinyl on them. Now that causes more work having to do the custom vinyl, but also because I don't want to cover up all these pretty ribbons, so I will space them out in a way where you can still kind of see them around, you know, underneath the other ribbons. And if I was just adding decorative ribbons, it would be much easier, but finding the right spot to put those names actually causes a little bit more stress, but that's what people like, so that's what I'm making. They really want their child's name on there, and I can't blame them. So I'm cutting V shapes on the bottom of all of those ribbons, make them nice and pretty. You can see I've got different width ribbons, so I'm doing the widest ones first, and then I'll end with the shortest ones. And like I said, you know, got to save space for those 2 luster or acetate ribbons. What I'm doing there is just heat sealing those ribbons because they will fray. Those are going to be like green, soft satin, stuff like that, wired ribbons. Like that glitter ribbon right there, that does not need to be burnt. That would probably catch on fire if you tried to burn it. And over in the corner I'm showing a picture of the finished mum. So throughout the video I'm going to do that off and on so you can see what I did. I did make 2 small custom cutouts for it. You can see the golf one, the golf club on the flower, and then over to the right towards the bottom there's a soccer ball that is also a custom cutout. I did not film that, but that's what those are. They're just in black and white. She was into a lot of sports, so I add a lot of sports stuff on there. So there's sports ribbons. There's in the vinyl, I did cut out some sports balls. You're going to see a little chain, trinkets, the cutouts, stuff like that, to try and get all those sports in, because she was into quite a few, and of course they want, you know, those on there so you can see that. You can see the soccer ball ribbon on the bottom, and there's I believe a volleyball ribbon. That red ribbon right there that I'm attaching is diamond dust, red diamond dust. So I try to get it in as many colors as it comes in. Not just gold and silver, but if you can only get gold and silver, or you can only afford to get gold and silver at first, just do that because you're going to use that the most anyway. But I keep adding to my collection every year. And then sometimes I forget about them. I forget to put them on there. So there's the little video, short video I made of the finished mum, and I made it really slow so you can really see all the little aspects of it. So I don't add a ton of layers, just enough to make it full, but you don't want to make it super heavy. It's going to be on the wrist. If you made it too heavy, it would pull down and it would be uncomfortable too. So think about that. There's the layer of acetate or lusters, whichever you're using. I usually have a combination of both because not all colors are available in luster. So I have some acetate, some lusters. And those are the solid ribbons that are going to have the vinyl on them. So I am just seeing what it'll look like with them on top. You see when it's laying down flat, the ribbons are really spread up, but when you hold it up the way it's going to be worn, kind of tilted, how it's going to be worn on your wrist, you can see how they come together more, and they lay perfectly together. They're overlapped and everything. So it doesn't matter what it looks like when it's flat like this. What matters is what it looks when you're holding up, how it's going to be worn. So that's why I keep picking it up, because I want to know how those ribbons are going to lay as it's being worn. I really am OCD about how the ribbons get attached. You know, you add all these ribbons and you want them to be seen, and then I don't want any gaps either. I don't like that. I don't like when there's gaps between the ribbons. That drives me crazy. It's just one of those things that I'm really OCD about on mum making, and there are several things. Yeah, you just use this, you know, how I make my mums. You use it as a guide. You can do whatever you want with your mums, whatever style, whatever lengths, widths, whatever you want to do. If you want to make it similar to mine, then you're free to do that, but you also don't have to make something exactly like I do. You don't have to use the exact same measurements. You don't have to attach them the exact same way. Use this as a guide on how to make it, and, you know, be creative. Do what you want with yours. I never tell anybody that you have to do whatever it is with mums my way, or that my way is the right way. It's just my way. It's right for me, and that's all that matters. You find what's right for you and you do that. I love to hear everybody else's ideas and how they change things up and what they find that works for them and stuff. And you'll constantly change too. You'll notice that the more mums you make, that you'll adjust and try different things, and you'll find different things that work better. And that's how it's been for me. You see, I even had some softball elastic, so I used the softball elastic for the wristlet. So I really tried to get the sports balls, all the different themes in there and different aspects of the mum. There's even a little basketball, I don't know if you can see it in the flower there. There's a disco ball, but over towards the right there's a little basketball button, and it looks like there's a little bow there, and I put the button in the middle of the bow. Coffee break. I had to leave those in for Connie and TJ because, you know, I used to not be a coffee drinker, and they were still friends with me even though I wasn't. So now they're really happy that I'm a coffee drinker, so I had to put in the little coffee drink. There's a couple of them in this video where I have to drink my iced coffee, so... And I'm sorry I keep getting out of the screen when I hold it up. I wasn't even thinking. I set it up so when I was working on it on the table, it was in the perfect shot, but every time I pick it up, then it kind of goes off the screen, half of it anyway. But all I'm doing is just making sure that I like where the ribbons lay. And I'm stapling a lot of them as I hold them up because I know exactly where I want that ribbon, so I staple it as I'm holding it up. Again, those two ribbons are going to be what the vinyl goes on. And I am going to show weeding that vinyl and attaching the vinyl to the ribbons and then attaching those ribbons. So you will see that. And just trimming off all those ends. So some of them I do like a V shape, some of them I do like at an angle, like especially the smaller ones I'll do it at an angle because it's just too hard to do a V shape on a smaller one. You can still do on that size, but the size smaller than that, like 9/16 and stuff, it's too hard to do a V shape. I'd rather just do them at an angle. I think up there on the left you can see the little ribbons have how they're cut at an angle. And the backer that I'm using, I don't know if I showed what size it was, I'm sorry. Those are just ribbon spool ends. So, like those little spools of ribbon that I've got laying on the table, it's just going to be those size ribbon spools. They're not all the same, but those are the general size that I use for my wrist mums or wristlets, whatever you want to call it. And I'm using a 4-inch flower, so it's going to be around 4 inches. Could be as small as 3, could be as about 4.5, so anywhere in that it's going to work. And I want my loops to be nice and thick, because if you only do one layer of the acetate or luster, they can easily get smushed and creased. So if you double them up, like I'm doing here, then they're going to hold their shape a lot better. So what I did was I cut it. I want my loops 4 inches. I don't want my loops to be 4 inches. I want the ribbon to be cut at 4 inches for the loops, which is going to make a 2-inch loop. So I cut the ribbon at 8 inches, fold it in half, and then form my loop, which makes a 2-inch loop. And it's nice and thick. And I make 8 loops. So depending on how big your backer is, how big your flower is, will depend on how many loops you need. With this size, I need 8 total. 4 and then 4. And I'll add some other fun stuff. So I did 2 volleyball ribbons and then 2 soccer ball ribbons, so to tie those in on the backer as well. But also a lot of glitter and pretty ribbons. I love doing the black and white ribbons on top of a color, especially like red or orange or something like that. It just really pops. The royal blue, those black and white ribbons, they just really pop on those colors. I love it. And you can find those kind of ribbons, you can find them at Walmart, you can find them at Hobby Lobby, Michael's, all kinds of places like that. So again, I am doubling up the ribbons, and this is the number 9, the 1 5/16. And then that's that mylar or metallic ribbon. It's a very thin ribbon, but it's shiny and pretty. I've got that in multiple colors too, in different sizes. See, I folded it in half and then formed my loop, so it's doubled up. And then I have some red glitter ribbon I'm going to cut as well. Again, you just need a 4-inch length for these loops. course, you're welcome to make your loops as big as you want, but that's what size works for me. Remember, this is going on the wrist, so you don't want it huge either. But if 5 inches works better for you, then do that. 6 inches would just be too much for me. I have even a thinner ribbon that has some sports balls on it. I can't tell. I think this is the baseball one. Baseball or softball works for either one. I don't remember where that one came from. Now for a black glitter on top of the red glitter. So I want some pretty sparkles too, along with the sports balls. Alright, here's my 4-inch flower. This one is an iridescent flower. And that's how big it's going to be on the backer, so I'm testing to see where I need to put my loops. Make sure that it's evenly spaced where I need the flower and the loops on the backer. If your backer's bigger, then you may have to add more loops, or you can go in further on the backer with your loops. But I always like to put my flower on there and see exactly where I need to attach the loops at, so it's all evenly spaced. And when I'm attaching 4 loops at a time to a backer, I like to go north, south, east, and west. That just works for me, and I can attach them more evenly that way. See, they're not perfect, but I like them to get pretty straight. That way when I do the next 4, those first 4 are evenly spaced out, and because if you've got them just kind of on there however, and you go to attach the next 4, you could have 2 that are really spaced out and 2 that are really close together, and it's going to really stand out. You're really going to be able to tell. So I try to get them evenly spaced as possible, but not a single one of them is perfect, I can tell you that. As long as it looks good, that's all that matters. And I'm just checking to see that they are spaced evenly, also coming off or on the, like how far they are on the backer, if that makes sense. In this second set of 4, I'm going in a little bit further towards the center, like towards the hole. I'm attaching them a little bit further in. You can do them all the same, where they're all the same length, or what am I trying to say, where they're all sticking off the backer the same. But a lot of times with the second set, I like to go in a little bit further. I like the looks of it. But again, that's what I like. That's how I'm doing it. That does not mean you have to do it that way. See how cute that is? But I'm going to attach some more fun stuff. We're only at the halfway mark, so you're going to see quite a bit of this. You don't see me attaching the elastic or attaching all the sections together, but I've shown that multiple times on other videos. So if you need to see that, I've got tons of that on this channel. I probably even have a playlist that's for wrist mums. Alright, I decided to do some little ribbon spikes. This is silver diamond dust, and I'm just cutting them the same length. I cut them at 1.5. And then I'm going to cut a V shape on one side just to make it decorative. I've got 4 of them, I believe. You fold it in half, but do not crease it, and then cut at an angle, and then you've got your little V shape. So I'm cutting 2 at a time. If you cut too many of them at once, you can mess them up. And I'm just putting these on top of the original 4 loops that I did. I'm trying to be careful and not smash any of my loops. Some of these ribbon spools that you use, the hole is big enough that you can put your stapler inside the hole and staple that way. But this bigger stapler that I'm using, it is wider and it won't go through there. And constantly getting staples jammed. Gotta get my pliers out and pull them out. I have 2 staplers that will do this a lot, and it drives me crazy. See how I'm kind of pushing that loop up and then going in between? That way I'm not smashing any loops. See how? Push that one up, kind of going at an angle, and I don't squish any loops that way. And the last one. Just be careful about how you're getting on there. Seeing how that looks. See how they just kind of stick out just enough. Adds a little bit more bling, a little bit more dimension to it. Another coffee drink. Those iced coffees got me through homecoming. And I had to type something, so I had to show that too, because that's constant too. Stopping and replying or something. So I decided it needed some deco mesh tubing. And here's my one of my other staplers, so it goes into the, it'll fit in the hole, which makes it really easy. Just forming a loop and then holding on to it until I can get it stapled on. And this just adds, you know, a little something extra, another fun texture and dimension to the mum. They're not all the same size or anything. I make them just as close as possible, but they're not going to be all the same, and I don't care about that. That's fine. Let's see what that looks like. You'll see me a lot of times when I do tubing, I'll do more than one color. I just like the looks of it. Oh, poked myself or something. Some of those staples on the back side, you guys know, they don't staple down all the way and they stick out, and then you end up jabbing yourself with it. Pinch and hold. Being able to go through the middle there really helps too. And then I'm going to go around and add a few more extra staples there. Make sure everything's stapled down good. That's super cute. The tubing almost adds to the flower. It almost gives the flower more dimension. And that's, you know, more what it's going to look like. I'm going to go ahead and secure the flower too with the chenille stem. So I did show that. Find it there in the middle. And with these smaller flowers, I don't always tie a knot. Usually I don't with the smaller flowers. You see, I just twisted it. I added some hot glue in there, and now I'm fluffing it up and let that dry. So here's after I cut the vinyl on my Cricut Maker 3, and I used Cricut Smart Vinyl. It's the silver shimmer. And I've got the Cricut light board. They are a little bit pricey, but it really helps when you're using the shimmer vinyl, and I use a lot of shimmer vinyl during homecoming, and it's hard to see a lot of times where it needs to be weeded, so it's really worth it having this light board for all that work. And sometimes the shimmer vinyl doesn't cut completely, so that can be a problem too. This weeding tool is like a pen, but it's really fine tip, and it works great for these kind of little projects. We got those from Amazon. It's probably in my Amazon store. I try to put everything that I use in my Amazon store. Link in the description. Just want to carefully weed it. Like I said, the shimmer vinyl can be a little bit picky, so I try to be really careful because I don't want to cut it again. I don't want to be wasteful. I don't want to cause myself more work. You can see it's so much easier to weed this with that light board. It has like 3 different brightnesses on it too, so it's pretty awesome. I think it's around $50 if I remember correctly. I could be way off, but that's what my mind is telling me it was. Of course, you can put it in your cart and then save it for later, and if it goes on sale, it'll inform you. So I do that with a lot of things too. So she wanted, or they wanted, the last name, person's last name, and then the mascot. Usually people want the child's first name, but on this one they wanted the last name. I've got some transfer tape because I want to transfer it to the ribbon. Sometimes, I'll attach the word going down the ribbon, and then I'll just do each letter individually. But these are longer words, and so I'm attaching them sideways on the ribbon, I guess you want to call it. You'll see. The shimmer vinyl can sometimes be a little bit more difficult to get on the transfer tape too. The heavy duty or strong grip, whatever you call it, is too much for the shimmer. No, it's not. That's what I use on the shimmer. Never mind. That's what I use on the shimmer. Never mind. But it can be too much still sometimes. Sometimes I'll de-sticky it a little bit and then use it. But then sometimes you do de-sticky it too much and it won't work. So that's my only complaint about the shimmer. I want to attach the name as close to the bottom, not all the way down. I'm trying to leave room for at least one sports ball. But if I attach it too far at the top, then it's going to get covered up when you attach the mum head. And I can usually get a couple of uses out of that strong grip, but usually not more than that. I can't remember what all sports ball. I know there was the softball, and there may have been a volleyball, maybe even basketball. I can't remember. Let's see where it's going to lay, how much room I'm working with. I cut out 6 balls because I thought at most I can get 3 on each ribbon, and I wasn't sure if I could get all of those on there or not. That's the volleyball, and there's some little pieces that don't like to weed out, so again, that weeding tool is really great for that because it's got a very, very fine tip on it. There's the softball. I thought about putting it over the O. I was kind of looking to see what it would look like, but I ended up not. I didn't like it. So I squeezed it down there with another ball. Maybe it was it up there? I can't remember. I know I ended up getting 3 balls on there, but kind of had to overlap them a little bit. It worked out. It looked good. And I didn't put the balls on the same spot on the ribbons. Like I do the second ribbon, I don't put the same balls in the same spot. That way you can see different ones. Like I think that was the basketball on the bottom. And so I'm pretty sure I put a different one at the bottom. That way they weren't the same. This one I'm going to go ahead and start with a ball. See, I just love those pins. They are so great, especially with little delicate things like that. Yeah, see, that's definitely the volleyball. It came off so good. I love when they come off that easily. Alright, I had to step away for about an hour, and so I don't remember exactly where it was or what I was saying, but here is the second one, and I got lucky. These weeded pretty easily and they transferred really easily, so they don't always do that. That was wonderful. And you see that peeled off really good. Sometimes when you peel that off too, sometimes a letter will try to come off with it, so you got to be careful. And that is the basketball, so I'm going to put the basketball over by the L, and that leaves the softball or baseball, and I'll put that down there by the volleyball. I had to overlap them a little bit to make them work, otherwise they'd be hanging off the ribbons, and I didn't want that. There they are. I know they just look silver, but they're actually silver shimmer, so they're glittery. And now it's time to attach them. Make sure they're going to work. I'm going to hold it up, see how it's going to lay. See how far down to put it. Sometimes I have to put them down just a little bit further than the other ribbons, and that's okay. It doesn't affect it. Just want to make sure that as much of it is seen as possible. And with the wrist mum, the way it lays and the way the flower lays flat on your wrist, it actually allows for you to see the ribbons a little bit better where it curves. So I'm going to staple that on. I know you can't see all of that. See how I stapled that pretty far down on the backer there towards the edge, but it's still going to be covered up with the backer, so we're okay. But I wanted it to be seen. Now for this one. And sometimes the other one won't need to be down as far, but I want them to look pretty evenly, so I'm just going to watch that. Again, I'm putting the backer on there, holding the backer on there to see how it's going to look before I staple it. Make sure it's exactly where I want it. There we are. And I like to make the names as big as possible. I found that it looks better the bigger the word. So that's why a lot of times I'll turn the word around like this, especially with the bigger, longer words or names. I'll turn them sideways like that. You can still read it, but that way I can make them much bigger. I used to try and make all the letters or all the words come where you were seeing them up and down, But those longer names, I would have to make the letters so small, and I didn't like it. So I started a couple of years ago, I think it was, I started doing them this way too. So I alternate, depends on how long the word is, or the name, or the mascot. So I found that it looks, I like this look better if it's a longer name, because I like the name to really stand out and to look nice and neat, of course. Alright, now I'm attaching some really thin glitter ribbons just to accent a little bit, and holding it up again to make sure I like where they're at and how they're laying. And you can staple or glue those on. Again, I'm sorry that I wasn't thinking, and every time I picked this up that I was getting out of the shot or halfway out of the shot, but it is what it is. So there was a red one, and I thought there was a black one too. I guess I already trimmed it down. There's some more red glitter. So I'm going to kind of put it kind of behind that ribbon, so it's not covering up the soccer balls, but you can see it hanging out behind the longhorns just a little bit. So see how you hold it up and you can see exactly how it's going to lay, and I want to make sure that I see a little bit of it. So do that first, and now you can staple it on. Just helps so much to hold them up and see. Trim the end of that one. And it's got all kinds of fun ribbons on it, and just really happy with how it turned out. I've got a little piece of a basketball chain. So, you know, you get these different themed chains like this, and or garland, and you know, sometimes you just use parts of them most of the time. So even if I have just a little bitty section that's just like a couple inches long, I've used them on ring mums before. You can see I have a little small section. It was just perfect to use on this. So I don't throw those away. You can always get use out of them. And then some other small trinkets. I didn't want to put anything big on there. I think this has something to do with fast pitch. I think that's what that says. So softball. There's a volleyball button. I believe that's a soccer button down there too. Just going to attach those randomly. I don't put anything big, like no big trinkets on there. You just weigh it down. And big bells, it weighs it down. It kind of pushes the streamers down when it's on. So I just put like little cowbells on there, so they can still make noise, but nothing big on there. If you're going to put a bigger bell, I would suggest putting it close to the flower, or just barely off under the flower, so it's not pushing against the ribbon streamers. I've got different size buttons with sports balls on them. So they're fun to use like in the middle of a bow, or you can run them through string like this. That cord that I'm using, or string, is pretty thick, so it's kind of hard to get in there. Just put it right on top of that little cowbell, and it looks cute. I just tried to put, you know, all these different sports that she's into in as many little places as I could fit them. I like to hide these little nuggets everywhere so they can look through it and find little surprises everywhere. I don't know how many times I've heard the moms telling me that they were just looking through the mum, especially the bigger ones, of course, but just looking through big mums, not bigger kids, but big mums, you know, looking through all the little trinkets and fun stuff, embellishments, trying to find all the fun little stuff that I hid in there. So it's fun. It's almost like a little game to put all this little stuff on there, and because every time they look at it, they're going to find something new, so that's fun for them. Even the high schoolers enjoy it. The ones that really like getting mums, they enjoy that stuff. Since I'm just going to glue that straight on a ribbon, I wanted to pull that little piece off the back, the little button part. That way it won't stick out, because I want it flush on the ribbon. Just hot gluing that on. So she's got a few little trinkets on there, and that's it finished. Like I said, I made a couple of little custom cutouts, so she ordered some, you know, a little extra on there. These do not come with custom cutouts, but if they want that as an extra, they can do that. Or if there's something they really wanted on it, you know, and you don't have trinkets for it or whatever, you can do a, you know, custom cutout. A lot of times will help cover that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please subscribe, share, like, comment. Please be kind with those comments. Please be kind to yourself, be kind to others. Happy mum season. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching.